Okay, I was just watching my Eureka video, and I was talking about how the current's coming across here, passing a current coming across here, was creating basically this boundary. Let's see, this current cutting across from the puncture mantle puncture hole that then goes under Europe and then under Greenland and then under North America that then interacts with this current, where this current then is caused to have a current dispersion zone, I called it. And so, let's keep going here. Okay. This current dispersion zone, where then the current generally goes up this way, it appears. Like there's a general boundary that's like here. So the general boundary is like from here, especially like there's a region where there's crossover, but then there's a more defined boundary up here that's kind of an extended portion of this, but like really the most continuous segment is around here with that included, but just as like a yes, it continues kind of thing. But then down this way, we can really reliably follow this as the boundary between the current going northward here and the current going southward here, or at least in the directions. I don't know which direction. I think they were along the equator. Like this was the equator, maybe. Maybe I don't know. Maybe it seems plausible. Like okay, and this one and this one, like so that basically they're like crossed over two currents along the equator going out in both directions, a current going in both directions that then are crossing over, but it's on a sphere, so how they cross over is in a location like this that's kind of here coming down and here coming down, and then they cross over here, and this current continues down through this region but it and into South America, but because of the crossover, it basically causes this current to begin to vibrate, and this current also vibrates this way. So it like essentially has this current caused to go this way, and probably a little bit this way, but I think preferentially this way because this current flowing this way vibrates when after they cross over, and so it goes generally speaking along here, I believe, like right up here, right there, like straight across here, pretty much, almost like a exactly straight across, like an exactly straight line in this segment, where it's very straight initially. Okay, and then continues through to the mantle puncture hole, which is only here. This region is formed from like emissions after the bond breaks between them, but like to reform the bond. So this region forms then as a bond, as like a single bond between North America and South America, and the current coming down there that's caused to basically go up this way. This is like the boundary here, right there. This current is especially caused to like turn a like be redirected this way by the interaction. So it looks like it even vibrates. Like we see the vibration now that I realize that's going on. We can almost see like the vibrations in the currents down through it, even here still. just a vibration to the current, but it essentially causes one segment of the current to flow along here. Because this is the current that was going into here before they detached. Before they detached, it was here. The current was physically passing through this region. This was still not widened, like they were together. The Yucatan Peninsula was physically, the the mass of the Yucatan Peninsula was on top of this, not on top of, connected to, adjacent, like a single landmass of the Earth was, and the flow was still going through the tip of it to here. But then they detached, physically detached, and it moved off of here over here where it was releasing material that was just generally flowing sideways, but then like filling this space. I believe that's how that was made, by the currents coming out of here, just to cause this. But it was rapid because then quickly Australia, once this detached, Australia detached, and then once Australia detached, this region basically was able to swing over. Although I don't know if it swung over per se, probably essentially. There's probably an actual swinging on like a compass hinge. I mean, that's literally imprinted here. Like an actual swinging in, that then when that occurred, this current was still flowing, but it was flowing into like a boundary that had been forming, that was essentially forming along this region, like here though, along this region here is here essentially, and it physically carved apart the boundary and went down that region until it ran into resistance. But it must have done it like starting here and like widening, like from a straight angle to almost like it was ramping up like that, to a point where it was only ramping like this, like the current was slowing down, so it went up like that, and even like in a way where the current is, this is the current, and then it ran into the resistance of this current, and so it kind of like smoothened out. Whereas while it's moving, it's putting a current in this direction, which then caused this island arc, as well as accreting material here. Some of this is just accreted, and like this I don't know when this formed, but it more than likely is recent. Let's just see. Let's see if Panama Canal is like 50 million years or less, or Panama geology, Panama Canal. Oh Lord, I was just thinking about it and how we broke the bond a little bit. That's why I said that, but the region was separate magmatic arc until 20 million years ago. Pretty much after, by a period of flows, even suggests some sort of flow in the very end stages of this process, which makes sense. So as the Earth expanded, it did so by this region detaching out to here, and then Australia detaching, and then the region swinging in, and this, as it's doing that, the current is flowing and flowing and flowing through the Earth, through these channels, but then it being emitted through like, so like this current right here exactly, is this current. It's carving like a more substantial variation region, but also there's one here that flows to Where is it? Here, we can follow this one. Here, that flows to here, and then leaves behind this trail. So all of these are probably just like threads of that energy, like this one. I don't know where this one exactly is, probably like in this region, that ultimately originate back at taking a wider angle, but where like the most of the current was along the equators. In opposing directions. And so then the Earth continues to expand, but as it's doing it, it's sending this current out this way. But the it's just pretty much empty space. Like this space is being filled with new oceanic crust that's being just emitted from the side of the underlying, from basically underneath of the continental shelf, just underneath it, flowing from the mantle that then upwells to fill the region and just push outward then until a new equilibrium emerged. And so it makes sense that that would be late in the process. So back to here though, this straight line thing here, the reason I feel confident that it largely formed in a straight line is because it has these like, so why I started recording was because I thought, well, there's probably a current that goes like this along this boundary-ish and begins to wrap around up in here. And then it basically runs into this current that's flowing this way. So because it's running into resistance, but it's got this momentum, it begins to spiral here and just create here where then it joins the flow, but because it's like creating this eddy region, it then creates this eddy region so that the flow goes back and again joins the flow, however exactly it formed. Probably more like this, I guess it looks like. Like an elongated eddy because it's in this current, so it's just getting elongated. And then it then joins the current though again through, like cutting through this like straight segment in ways where it's just leaving behind these like indications of just parts of the current flow. So the current flowed this way and formed an eddy here, but it also seems to have not just gone this far, but past there and up into this region where it really was hitting resistance, creating this like substantial one that then went back this way. Maybe even this went like directly there and like fed into this, like this current went like this. And so a segment of it was involved in that. And then it also went like this and more over to this side and produced this region. But here we have this current, which was basically here at its boundary, at its widest boundary as it's narrowing in across this process. It looks like, now that I see it, it looks like its widest boundary was really there. And then the other current, so because there's three currents here, they must have produced like mass here to really create this feature. But so this one maybe also rejoins. It comes across, goes that way, and however exactly gets over there. I mean, maybe this way, like more like that. Or here, more like this. Maybe like that. That kind of makes sense where it goes like suddenly ramps here and then kind of goes straight across with like a high velocity across the current, but then the current actually overwhelms it finally, and then it just kind of joins it where the current's overwhelming it. Yin and yang thing going on here, where there's a void with a mass and a mass with a void. Where only the void one with the mass in it, is where this current wraps around, but is not actually part of the initial current segment here. Whereas this one is also not part of it. So I guess neither of them are part of it. It's just on the side of it. Really looking like a yin yang right here, like right here. Just like formed on the side of it. Crazy. Where is that? 132.4. Can we just see it in the land, like right there? Maybe. There, maybe. Oh, wait, where was it? 32. This one's 33 and a half, 31 and a half, let's say. And then 100, okay. Here it is. Little smiley face on the surface. Ah, freaking mouse. I can't even see it anymore. I really can't even see it anymore with the labels. Isn't that crazy? It's gotta be centered on this, though, generally speaking. Was it here? 102. Oh my god. Sorry, guys. I found it for a moment. You guys saw it. Cool. Oh, there's the smiley face. It's gotta be here. Yeah, there it is. There it is. Okay. Knox County. Benjamin, Texas. This freaking mouse. Just to scroll out. Okay. Okay. There we go. There's that. Okay. Where was I? So there's seemingly a current. Maybe it's cutting across through this region, though. Like it separates the materials, maybe, depending on the material. More sandy material, less dense, was able to travel faster velocities, so it could go at a more straight angle. It's like the double slit in it's how gravitational lensing actually works, like faster, like a prism. It's like a prism light, because the less lensed material, the one that's bent less, is red, the lower energy one, and it's because it's made of more subtle particles, so it's able to travel through currents, I guess, that it experiences that the other materials of the same general current also experience, but they meet the resistance more, so they get deflected further, so that the more sandy one went this way and basically eddied in this region, maybe, and basically made the, like, all of this material, because this is kind of like anomalous on the surface of the earth. It's generally more clean at boundaries. Also, here is a similar type of thing where maybe we can draw for that, where like the this was the most dense material that was caused to deflect this way, that then mounted here, but then a less dense material generally went here, and then the least dense, like the most subtle grained sands, like the Keys and the Bahamas, that material just went right this way, maybe, and essentially produced this region, where then the more dense materials that went this way were caused to kind of create this region. Probably out of some of the materials here that are not sure exactly. I think it's old. Yeah, it's Precambrian, so it's basically using continental crust as some sort of like nucleus that is then surrounded by this current that then stably holds these regions, these islands in position. Maybe it even like drastically has one that bends back like this way, back like all the way this way through here, which meets the general resistance of the current, this much current to flow through here, so that like the combination of this current and this backflow current, that's like immediately deflecting back through. This also looks kind of like a flame this way, like this way a flame, like a candle flame. Probably because of how that structure, that type of shape forms, like a current coming in and then passing another current, and when it passes that current, it then is caused to rapidly rise because it's the most dense. It's pretty much coming straight down on the current and then right back up on the current, in a way. Maybe just some thoughts. I'm pretty sure all the things I just said are like pretty solid and at least in the direction of what's going on in this region. Cool. So that's kind of why probably this region is shaped like it is, because of the types of crossing currents. Like this flame one produces this boundary and this boundary. Maybe it's just vibrationally doing it and not necessarily like because they're crossing it pushes it over this way, but this stream then is like under tension, so then it pushes back and begins to vibrate this region underneath the ground to essentially create this flame looking structure without like actual backflow. And probably in the same way, like the vibrations of it effectively make it as if the current backflows that way, but as if the current backflows this way, but it's maybe just the vibrations of it, like causing these features to like vibrate out between the current's interactions effectively, that ultimately are as if it's like that because it is on some way, in some way, but it's also just the waves colliding and interacting. So it's kind of like a particle wave duality aspect maybe to it. That was big. Initially I was just thinking this region. I wonder if there's this here continues like this maybe, like something like there, but then this maybe, and then maybe like these. Oh, is this the dragon thing extending through here even? But especially here. Maybe that way, coupled with... This is interesting. This is more straight up shallogram like teeth. Let's look at some shallogram. Shallogram. Like once it goes to here where it doubles, like initially they're not always splitting. It can just be like one. Let's see. I'm just thinking like this is kind of... Ah, fuck. I'll be back.